Hello, it's Reverend Chris Taylor again, and I'm going to read chapter 2 of The House at Pooh Corner, written by AA Milne with fabulous illustrations, or decorations as they call them, by E.H. Shepherd. And chapter 2 is titled, and this is part 1 of chapter 2, chapter 2 is titled, In Which Tigger Comes to the Forest and Has Breakfast. Winnie the Pooh woke up suddenly in the middle of the night and listened. Then he got out of bed and lit his candle and stumped across the room to see if anybody was trying to get into his honey cupboard. And they weren't, so he stumped back, blew out his candle and got into bed. Then he heard the noise again. "Is that you, Piglet?" he said. But it wasn't. "Come in, Christopher Robin," he said. But Christopher Robin didn't. "Tell me about it tomorrow, Eeyore," said Pooh sleepily. But the noise went on. "Worra, worra, 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 worra," said whatever it was, and Pooh found that he wasn't asleep after all. What can it be? He thought. There are lots of noises in the forest, but this is a different one. It isn't a growl, and it isn't a purr, and it isn't a bark, and it isn't the noise you make before beginning a piece of poetry. But it's a noise of some kind, made by a strange animal, and he's making it outside my door. So I shall get up and ask him not to do it. He got out of bed and opened his front door. "Hello," said Pooh, in case there was anything outside. "Hello," said whatever it was. "Oh," said Pooh. "Hello." "Hello." "Oh, there you are," said Pooh. "Hello." "Hello," said the strange animal, wondering how long this was going to go on for. There's the strange animal, Pooh with his candle, checking him out. Pooh was just going to say hello for the 4th time when he thought that he wouldn't, so he said, "Who is it?" instead. "Me," said a voice. "Oh," said Pooh. "Well, come here." So whatever it was came here, and in the light of the candle he and Pooh looked at each other. "I'm Pooh," said Pooh. "I'm Tigger," said Tigger. "Oh," said Pooh, for he'd never seen an animal like this before. "Does Christopher Robin know about you?" "Of course he does," said Tigger. "Well," said Pooh, "it's the middle of the night, which is a good time for going to sleep. And tomorrow morning we'll have some honey for breakfast. Do Tiggers like honey?" "They like everything," said Tigger cheerfully. "Then if they like sleeping on the floor, I'll go back to bed," said Pooh, "and we'll do things in the morning. Good night." And he got back into bed and went fast asleep. When he awoke in the morning, the first thing he saw was Tigger sitting in front of the glass and looking at himself. Pooh got out of bed and said, "Hello." "Hello," said Tigger. "I've found somebody just like me. I thought I was the only one of them." Pooh began to explain what a looking glass was, but just as he was getting to the interesting part, Tigger said, "Excuse me a moment, there's something climbing up your table," and with one loud "Worra, worra, 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 worra," he jumped at the end of the tablecloth, pulled it to the ground, wrapped himself up in it 3 times, rolled to the other end of the room, and after a terrible struggle got his head out into the daylight again, and said cheerfully, "Have I won?" "That's my tablecloth," said Pooh, as he began to unwind Tigger. "I wondered what it was," said Tigger. "It goes on the table, and you put things on it." "Then Why did it try to bite me when I wasn't looking? I don't think it did, said Pooh. It tried, said Tigger, but I was too quick for it. Pooh put the cloth back on the table. He put a large honey pot on the cloth, and as they sat down to breakfast. And as soon as they sat down, Tigger took a large mouthful of honey. And he looked up at the ceiling with his head on one side and made exploring noises with his tongue and considering noises and what have we got here noises. And then he said in a very decided voice, Tiggers don't like honey. Oh, said Pooh, and tried to make it sound sad and regretful. I thought they liked everything. Everything except honey, said Tigger. Pooh felt rather pleased about this and said that as soon as he'd finished his own breakfast, he would take Tigger round to Piglet's house and Tigger could try some of Piglet's acorns. Thank you, Pooh, said Tigger, because acorns is really what Tiggers like best. So after breakfast, they went round to see Piglet, and Pooh explained as they went that Piglet was a very small animal who didn't like bouncing, and asked Tigger not to be too bouncy just at first. And Tigger, who had been hiding behind trees and jumping out on Pooh's shadow when it wasn't looking, said that Tiggers were only bouncy before breakfast, and that as soon as they'd had a few acorns, they became quiet and refined. So, by and by, they knocked at the door of Piglet's house. Hello, Pooh, said Piglet. Hello, Piglet. This is Tigger. Oh, is it? Said Piglet, and he edged round to the other side of the table. I thought Tiggers were smaller than that. Not the big ones, said Tigger. They like acorns, said Pooh, so that's what we've come for, because poor Tigger hasn't had any breakfast yet. Piglet pushed the bowl of acorns towards Tigger and said, Help yourself. Then he got close up to Pooh and felt much braver and said, So, you're Tigger. Well, well, in a careless sort of voice. But Tigger said nothing, because his mouth was full of acorns. After a long munching noise, he said, and when Pooh and Piglet said, What? He said, School's and went outside for a moment. When he came back, he said firmly, Tiggers don't like acorns. But you said they liked everything except honey, said Pooh. Everything except honey and acorns, explained Tigger. When he heard this, Pooh said, Oh, I see. And Piglet, who was rather glad that Tiggers didn't like acorns, said, What about thistles? Thistles, said Tigger. Thistles is what Tiggers like best. Then let's go along and see Eeyore, said Piglet. So the three of them went, and after they had walked and walked and walked, they came to the part of the forest where Eeyore was. And there they are, walking and walking, and Tigger looks like he's bouncing a bit. And walking. And that's the end of part 1.